Hey guys, it's Walking Draws. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today I'm going to be talking about how to get better at shading. And so, I just want to start off by saying, before I even get into the video topic, this drawing is the product of art block. The product of me not really feeling like drawing, but I came back, I took a long break, and I've come back posting again, and I want to be consistent, so I was like, I need to draw. I need to get this drawing out there. I haven't drawn in probably about 4.5 weeks. The videos that I posted over the past 2 weeks, those were pre-filmed videos from weeks ago that I filmed weeks ago. And what I try to do is I try to film my videos at least a week ahead of time, so I know I can schedule it and then they'll come out when they're supposed to. They'll post when they're supposed to. And so, 2 weeks go by. I've run out of my pre-filmed videos because I just haven't felt like drawing. And so, I'm like, well, I gotta draw. If I want a video to come out this week, I'm gonna have to finish this drawing, whether I feel like it or not. And so, I pushed myself, and the drawing actually turned out really nicely, very surprisingly. This doesn't always happen, especially when you're drawing uninspired. And so I'm going to make a video in the future about how to keep a consistent drawing schedule or art schedule, consistently to keep drawing. When you have a bunch of other responsibilities in your life, you have school, or if you have work, and other things. But yeah. So anyways, I may do a video on choosing my references in the future, but if you're shading, choose an interesting reference. If I'm doing like a marker portrait or something, it doesn't have to be that interesting. When I say interesting, I mean, I guess with the shadows and the highlights that are in the reference, that they're very contrasting. There's a lot of contrasting values in the reference, and this one definitely has a lot. So yeah, marker portraits doesn't really matter so much to me. Same thing with colored pencil portraits. Still want it to be a good quality reference, but it doesn't have to be that as contrasting values, because I feel like the colors can kind of pop through. But if you're doing shading, you're completely relying on different values of gray. And so you need a really interesting reference to really make it pop. And you want it to, of course, be good quality. This is a good quality reference. It's pretty clear. When I say that, I mean like it's clear. It's not like a blurry photo. And so for me, I mostly draw what I see. Sometimes I'll fill in a little bit of the details or whatever, depending on what it is. But for the most part, I draw what I see. So if I'm seeing a blurry photo, then the quality of my portrait isn't going to be that great. And so if you're a beginner, I would definitely use graphite. I've been drawing graphite portraits for 6 years, and I still use graphite. I just love graphite. It's very forgiving. If you use charcoal, it's not very forgiving. If you shade in something too dark, it's very hard to lift that charcoal off the paper. If you shade something in too dark on graphite, it's still a little tougher, but not as tough. It's still definitely possible, depending on how much lighter you need it to be. And so before you even start drawing, you have to study the reference. I always look at the reference and kind of visualize in my mind, okay, what's kind of like my plan of action? And not necessarily like, oh, I'm gonna shade this in first and shade this in first, but just kind of being able to visualize myself like, oh, okay, I might need a 4B pencil for this part of the portrait. I might need a 6B for this part of the portrait. I can just kind of shade this in with a 2B. And so I think it's being able to kind of visualize what the portrait needs. I think visualizing is very important as an artist, and I hear a lot of artists say that, like, while they're drawing, they're just kind of like in a trance because they're just kind of visualizing it, and before you know, the drawing's done. But I think it's very true in visualizing yourself. I think that applies to a lot of other things as well, not just drawing, but being able to visualize how you're going to carry something out. And so, also just studying the reference, seeing where the different shadows and highlights are as well. And then I know some people, they like to build their graphite portraits almost like a painting, where they're kind of layering on top of each other, light to dark, and they kind of shade the whole drawing lightly, and then darken the areas that need to be darkened. I don't really like that. I like to shade in sections. So I'll take that one section from light to dark, like the corner of the face, the top corner, like top right corner from light to dark. But I won't shade the whole thing to start off with. That's just a preference for me. Either way you like to do it is fine. It's not really like a set in stone rule, like, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that. And then all of these are just kind of just my view on things, how I do things. But I just thought maybe I'd give you guys some insight on how I draw portraits and shade them. And so I typically always shade the eyes first, because that's usually what I'm drawing first as well when I'm doing a sketch. I don't know, just kind of interesting to work from inward outward. And then at the beginning of the video, you guys saw that I was using a kneaded eraser to lighten the sketch. And that's what you want to do at first, always. You want to lighten the sketch. You do not want dark pencil lines showing through your portrait when you're shading it in. And I always try to sketch lightly as much as I can. I still struggle with that, but definitely use an eraser to lighten that up before you start shading. And another thing I'm going to say is you have to use something to blend in the drawing, to blend in the graphite. Doesn't have to be a blending stump. I use a blending stump. They're not too expensive, but if you don't want to go out and buy a blending stump from your local art store or Hobby Lobby or whatever, that's fine. Because I started out, my art teacher, he had me using like tissue paper, like the kind that you blow your nose with. Yeah, literally, I was using that to shade in the graphite. You have to do that. It's just, that's part of shading. I can't really explain it, but it's just part of shading. I'm sure some people probably have a style where they don't shade in the graphite, and I think that's really interesting. But if you want it to be smooth looking, then, or smoother looking, then you have to use something to blend it in, whether that's a blending stump, tissue paper, or something of that nature. And then other than that, I really don't have a set in stone, like step-by-step detail. Maybe in the future, if I did like a short live, or maybe even just like a really short real-time video, I could like for like drawing, shading a certain section of a portrait, I could like explain what I'm thinking as I'm actually doing it. But as far as the time lapse goes, I guess these are just more like tips, not like a step-by-step tutorial. But my last thing, and it's the most important thing, you have to pay attention to the details. And so I think truly, as someone, if you're going to be shading, creating a graphite portrait, you have to be detail oriented. Because I'm trying to capture as many details from the reference as possible. I'm not going to get to everything. I can't possibly literally make like a photocopy of the portrait, but I try to get pretty close. I try to get as close as possible. And you have to, because that's what's going to make the portrait come alive. The more details I'm able to capture, the more that I am capturing the likeness of the person in the reference. And that's exactly what I want to do. And so, if this is the one thing that you get from this video, the biggest takeaway, it's about the details. It's about studying that reference and being able to capture and liken those details in the portrait. And I know that sounds easier said than done if you're a beginner, but it is truly that. That is truly the epitome of a graphite portrait. And so, I would just say keep drawing as many graphite portraits as you can. Keep cranking them out. I don't even know how many graphite portraits I've drawn. I want to say 100, but I can't even say that because now I don't even draw every day. I used to draw every day, but sometimes it's hard to draw once a week now. But if you're younger, you know, middle school, high school, before you get into college, you know, get a job and stuff, I would say crank out those images, crank out those drawings as much as you can. And if you do have those other responsibilities, you know, college, work, whatever, you just gotta try and get in the drawing as much as you can, as much as your responsibilities allow. And so you gotta put in the hours. You gotta put in the work. And I know when I started, I did not want to hear that. I did not want to hear, oh, you just need to keep drawing. You just need to keep putting in the hours. But it's the truth. You can't get better at something by not doing it. You know, with time you'll get better, and learning from different mistakes. You know, I look at some of my past graphite portraits. I'm like, I could have done this a little bit differently. I could have done this differently. I could have shaded this a little bit darker. I could have captured a little more detail here. And so it's really being able to build upon all of your past drawings and being able to improve by just continuing to do what you do. So yeah, I know that was a lot. This is probably the most I've spoken for in a video. But I'm not going to be talking much more for the rest of the video, so just enjoy this time lapse. getting towards the end of the video, as you guys can tell. One last thing I do want to say, I have a style, of course. With my portrait drawings, I draw realistic portraits, but they're not like super duper like hyper realistic. And so I do kind of have a little bit of a style of how I draw things and shape things. And so I remember one time I saw a comment on social media, that might have been on my Instagram account or something, but someone said, I really like your style. It's kind of like geometric. And I never really thought about it like that before. And I guess I do kind of have a geometric style. Looking at this shaded in portrait, everything just kind of looks like it's in shapes. And I guess that's because that's how I kind of see things. I see the different values and shapes. This blob of a shape is darker than this blob of a shape. And so I guess that's kind of how I see things. That's just kind of how it comes through in the portrait. It's like I said, it's all about how you see things. That's what's going to come through with your style and your graphite portrait. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, definitely leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to see more content just like this. And definitely follow my other social medias. I am Walkie and Draws also on Instagram and TikTok. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, found it helpful. Definitely leave a comment if you have suggestions for videos in the future. If you want to know about something, you want to learn about something, definitely leave that comment, and I will definitely consider that for a future video. But anyways, guys, have a blessed day, and see you guys next week.